My name is Lucas from PODS or PODS.media, and we are building a platform for on-chain podcasts. On-chain is the new online, and God forbid we say the word NFT in this economy. A little bit of background on the team before we get into it. Prior to founding PODS, I was employee number one at Bankless. I worked with Ryan and David for about 3 years, where I launched Bankless Collectibles, which was like the first instantiation of these podcast NFTs. We released about 20 episodes on chain and saw over 250 ETH in volume. I'm also joined with Dan Simmons and Drew Fisher, two amazing founding engineers spearheading the technical development of the platform. I also want to give a shout out to Nish, who's been leading the product design and making everything look absolutely amazing. So why are we focusing on podcasting? Well, there's a really good chance that you're sleeping on this opportunity. It's a $20 billion global market, growing at over 20% per year. It's expected to reach $100 billion by the end of the decade. There's over 400 million global listeners, over 60% of which are under the age of 35. So you have a young digitally native demographic in a fast-growing media vertical. So why would we put this on chain? Well, the first one is monetization. Ads currently dominate the revenue model. Unfortunately, as we all know, they kind of just suck. We mostly just skip right through them. We don't engage on them on any level. Enter collect, and we now have this more engaging monetization model that's tailored for listeners. And on the creator side, it's non-exclusive, so you can run it with ads, and it's entirely permissionless in the sense that any creator, no matter the audience size, can monetize their podcast on day zero. But monetization is really just one piece of it. The bigger unlock here is the social graph. When you release a podcast, you have no insights on who's listening. You get 10,000 downloads. All of those downloads are fungible. You don't know who's listened to your podcast for the first time, who listened to that episode 5 times and it changed their life, or who's listened to every single episode that you've ever released. Enter these NFTs, and it allows these listeners to express their affinity for that episode and for that creator as a whole and earn some status in return. On the creator side, when you're releasing your podcast on chain, you're getting this really granular, dynamic, composable, global list of your biggest fans. You can see that Jess collected every single episode, Josh collected every episode -1, and so on. So you get this really nice list of who's been engaging with your podcast. And then finally, there's a massive edge here. Unlike other players in the audio industry, like music, there's no gatekeepers, there's no record labels. Almost all of the creators are independent. So you can go to Lex Friedman today and tell him to put his podcast on chain. Second, distribution. There's a massive edge here. When you come across Daniel Allen on Spotify, who's one of the biggest music NFT artists in the space right now, you have no idea that that song is collectible. But with podcasts, the host has the opportunity to surface that the collectability directly in the content itself, as well as populate the link to collect in the show notes. So that populates on Apple, on Spotify, and anywhere else that you're listening to podcasts. So just a massive edge on distribution. And then finally, there's a phenomenal cohort of crypto native creators where the hosts deeply understand this technology and also have an audience that deeply understands the technology, has a MetaMask, and has likely collected an NFT before. So this creates a really compelling go-to-market strategy to get every single crypto podcast on chain. All right, so now that everyone is sufficiently bullish on podcast NFTs or on-chain podcasts, let's actually collect an episode. You can go to pods.media/the event and collect this exclusive episode of Building at the Edges, where Jess interviews the entire SC06 cohort. We have built this platform from the ground up, focusing on podcasts, so we allow creators to easily publish their episodes in a seamless experience using 1155 contracts, where these creator contracts effectively act as an on-chain RSS feed. And we've also built out a specialized podcast metadata standard where you can attribute the guest, the host, and a bunch of other things directly into the NFT. And we also support splits, so you can share revenue with your guests, with the other team members, with communities, DAOs, or any other organization. We also support a allow list. So if you are on the website right now, you're going to see 2 tiers. There's a VIP tier and a public tier. The VIP tier is for anyone that RSVP'd for the event as of this morning. You will be eligible to mint an episode for free. Any further collects can happen in the public tier, where all of the proceeds are going to be split evenly amongst all of the companies in SC06. So your collecting is actually going to directly support these early stage growth companies. We've also gamified the experience a little bit with the leaderboards. So the top 3 collectors by quantity will get a spot. The first mint and the most recent mint will also get a spot there. And that is pretty much it. I'm probably running out of time right now. We have a phenomenal cohort of crypto podcasts coming on chain, but if you have a podcast or have a friend with a podcast, feel free to reach out to me at lucas@pods.media. And we also raised a small pre-seed round earlier this year, but if you're interested in participating in a seed round sometime next year, feel free to reach out to me at lucas@pods.media. Unless you are not smashing that mint button, don't even bother reaching out to me. Thank you.